The sight of a once thriving town laying empty and decaying can be both sad and chilling. Whether by disaster, disease, war, or for just economic reasons, such a fate has befallen many cities over the centuries, and here we have 5 of the most amazing abandoned ghost towns from all across the world. Number 5. Agdam in Azerbaijan. Located in the southwestern part of Azerbaijan, the city of Agdam is a grim reminder of the destruction of war. First founded in the 18th century, Agdam was once home to over 50,000 people, but today it's a ghost town that's all but deserted, other than for the occasional military patrol or looter. The city's downfall was enacted during fierce fighting that took place in 1993 as part of the war between Azerbaijan and neighbouring Armenia. The Nagorno-Karabakh region of Azerbaijan sought independence, and neighbouring Armenia backed the rebel forces, believing that the region had ancient ties to Armenia. The city of Agdam began being used as a base for the Azerbaijan military, and in response to attacks from forces stationed in the city, the rebels backed by the Armenians launched an all-out assault on Agdam. Thousands of Armenian and Karabakh soldiers poured into the region, and the 50,000 residents of Agdam were forced to flee eastwards. After capturing the city, the rebels and Armenian forces decided to destroy as much of Agdam as they could in an attempt to discourage the Azerbaijanis from attempting to recapture it. Further damage was caused in the decades since the war ended, as locals began looting what little of value remained to use as building materials. Agdam today is now little more than a deserted ruin, and is completely abandoned apart from the occasional looter or military patrol. Since the war, it has been used as a buffer zone between the Azerbaijan and Armenian forces, and it's officially strictly off-limits to visitors. However, many people have reported hiring taxis to take them to the ghost town, for a sizable fee of course. Most of the city's buildings lay in ruins, and Mother Nature is rapidly reclaiming the area. Many of the former residents of Agdam still to this day live in temporary accommodation all over Azerbaijan. However, from the state of their former home, it seems that there is little hope of them ever returning. Number 4. Hashima Island in Japan. Commonly called Battleship Island due to its strange shape, Hashima Island is one of 505 uninhabited islands in the Nagasaki prefecture of Japan. The 16-acre island was first settled in 1887, when rich coal deposits were found to be laying underwater around the island, and by 1941, the tiny island was producing over 400,000 tons of coal per year, giving it a key role in the rapid industrialization of Japan. As coal production at the island increased, more and more buildings were constructed to house the workers needed to run the mine, and by 1959 the island's population had reached 5,259, densely crammed into the tiny 1,200-metre circumference island, giving it the highest population density in the world. Sprawling 10-storey apartment complexes covered the island, and there were even schools, restaurants and shops, turning Hashima into a giant blot of concrete in the sea. However, the island has a dark and controversial history, as many of the workers toiling in the mine were slave labourers imported from Korea and China. Beginning in the 1930s and lasting until Imperial Japan's eventual defeat in the Second World War, large numbers of Korean and Chinese civilians and prisoners of war were forcibly relocated to the island to work in brutal conditions at the mine. After the war ended, the island and its mine returned to normal operation. However, by the 1960s, petroleum was fast replacing coal as the energy source of choice for Japan, and the owners of the island began scaling back production. Eventually, the mine was completely closed in 1974. The workers and residents quickly departed the island, and it remained abandoned for the next 35 years, its sprawling concrete buildings rapidly decaying as nature once again began to assert its hold on the island. Travel to Hashima reopened in 2009 as interest in the historic ruins began to rise. The island was formally approved as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in July 2015, and you can still visit the island today, however in a very limited capacity. The official tour is only 60 metres long and follows a prescribed route which has been vetted for safety, as much of the island and its abandoned structures are strictly off-limits to visitors due to safety concerns. However, many urban explorers have travelled to the island covertly on fishing boats and explored the areas of the island that are officially off-limits. What's striking about Hashima Island is just how quickly human settlements can decay when abandoned. Hashima was not the victim of war or disaster, but a mere 30 years of abandonment has caused the once bustling town to be on the verge of collapse, and it's a chilling reminder to just how temporary our mark on the earth can be. Number 3. The Varosha quarter of Famagusta in Cyprus. Control of the island of Cyprus has been hotly contested for centuries, and many nations and empires have sought to dominate the island due to its strategic location in the eastern Mediterranean. On July 20th, 1974, Turkish forces invaded the island in response to a Greek-backed coup that was taking place in Cyprus. The Turkish army occupied the northern part of the island and pushed as far south as the Green Line, which is the current border between the Turkish-occupied north and the rest of the island, which is an independent nation. 2 miles north of this buffer zone lay the city of Famagusta. Prior to the invasion, Varosha was the thriving tourist quarter of Famagusta and was the #1 tourist destination in Cyprus. Its coastline was dotted with high-rise hotels, and its beaches attracted the rich and famous. However, at the outbreak of war, the 15,000 mainly Greek Cypriot residents of the Varosha resort fled due to fears of a potential massacre should they stay. They left all of their possessions behind, believing that once the fighting was over, they would be able to return to their homes. Turkish forces quickly took control of the city and fenced off the now deserted Varosha quarter. The fences still stand to this day, and Varosha is now a decaying ghost town. Entry is strictly forbidden, and the former residents of Varosha have not been allowed back to their homes. The resort has remained uninhabited for over 40 years, and the once pristine and upmarket hotels now lay in ruins, and the buildings and infrastructure in the area are falling apart as nature slowly reasserts control over the land. Varosha is thought to be nearly beyond repair, and any redevelopment would likely cost billions of dollars. Although the resort is strictly off limits, some photographers have climbed the fences to explore the city. What they have discovered is like a time capsule from the 1970s. Homes still contain full closets of now vintage clothes, and there is even a car dealership with a lot full of 1974 plated cars. The high cost of redevelopment, coupled with a 1984 UN Security Council resolution, which states that Varosha can only be resettled by its original residents, mean that Turkey is in no hurry to return Varosha to the Greek Cypriots or redevelop it. Cyprus today remains divided, with the northern 1/3 of the island now a Turkish-backed state, which is unrecognised by the international community, and the former 15,000 occupants of Varosha are now scattered across the rest of Cyprus and the world, still hoping that one day they may be allowed to return to their homes. Number 2. Kangbashi in China. Also known as the world's largest ghost town, Kangbashi is located in the Chinese province of Inner Mongolia and sits in the middle of a vast expanse of coal-rich grassland. Starting in the late 90s, private mining companies began exploiting these rich coal deposits, which generated a huge amount of tax revenue and attracted a stream of workers to the area. The local government set out to use the income boom to create their vision for a new urban centre of business, culture and politics. Massive construction began on an area of Ordos city known as Kangbashi, which was built to hold 1 million new residents and be the site of prestige buildings and modern architecture. Unfortunately, high property prices and taxes meant that the masses did not flock to Kangbashi as the planners had envisioned, and today it's estimated that fewer than 2% of its residential and commercial buildings are filled. The vast majority of the Kangbashi district sits abandoned and unused, its buildings slowly decaying and crumbling. To get an idea for how out of place this city must feel, just imagine any busy city like New York, London or Tokyo losing 98% of its population overnight, and you will get an idea for just how eerie and empty the streets of Kangbashi are. The few people who have made this new city their home tend to be government officials and construction workers. Most other people see no reason to move to this giant and all but dead metropolis. The city's skyline is littered with office towers and apartment complexes, many unfinished or simply falling apart, and there are huge museums, theatres and sports venues which sit all but unused and appear to be nothing more than expensive vanity projects. The Kangbashi district of Ordos city is not unique, however, and similar ghost cities are found all over China, where giant towns and cities have sprung up in record time but lacked willing residents to fill them. Number 1. Pripyat in Ukraine. The city of Pripyat is located in northern Ukraine and was abandoned on April 27, 1986, the day after the infamous Chernobyl disaster. Pripyat was founded in 1970 and was the 9th nuclear city in the Soviet Union. It was built to house workers from the Chernobyl power plant, and at the time of the disaster was home to nearly 50,000 residents. The town was beautiful by Soviet standards and contained everything its population needed, including schools, hospitals and even an amusement park. However, all that remains today are decaying ruins. On April 26, 1986, a sudden power surge caused a fire that burned for 10 days in one of the reactors at the Chernobyl power plant. The fire sent a huge plume of radiation into the environment, and it's estimated that the disaster released 400 times more radioactive material into the atmosphere than the Hiroshima atomic bomb. 31 people died nearly instantly, but estimates put the long-term death toll caused by the disaster at up to 4,000. Soon after the fire began, an exclusion zone was established, and all settlements within a 30-kilometer radius of the plant were evacuated. In all, 120,000 people were evacuated from the area, including all 50,000 residents of Pripyat, which was located just 3 kilometers from Chernobyl. The evacuation was so rapid that people had virtually no time to prepare, and were forced to leave most of their belongings behind. Remnants of these people's lives can still be seen strewn across the ruins of Pripyat, which is now possibly the world's most well-known ghost town. The entire city is eerily frozen in time, and provides a glimpse into what life might have been like in the Soviet Union of 1986. Communist propaganda still adorns walls, children's toys lay strewn across the floors of the schoolhouse, and all of the clocks are frozen at 11:55, which is the moment the electricity was cut. With all of its people gone, nature has returned to the area, and the wildlife population has soared. Deer and boar populations are on par with those at national parks, and they seem unaffected by the radiation. However, the city is still unfit for human habitation, with some scientists estimating that it could be up to 20,000 years before it's safe for humans to live near the plant again. It is possible to briefly visit Pripyat, but to do so you must obtain a government pass through touring companies that operate out of nearby Kiev. However, as time goes by, the buildings are becoming more unsafe to enter, and many of the possessions left behind by its former residents have been looted by visitors. Pripyat serves as a chilling reminder to just how quickly ordinary life can be turned upside down. So those are my choices for 5 of the world's most incredible abandoned ghost towns. If you could visit one of them, which would you choose? Personally, I would love to see Pripyat, but let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you again on the next video.